Hello everyone and welcome to the first NELI Programme Webinar of 2025-26. I really hope that the new school year, although I guess the start of the school year actually probably feels like a little while ago now, but I hope it's gotten off to a really good start for everybody. My name is Sarah Hearn and I work as part of the NELI team at Oxford and Assessment. And I'm really looking forward to speaking to you today about, jumped forward already, about how to effectively support language development in your school this year. Now, I know that some of you have been delivering NELI for several years now. Some of you, based on some of the submissions we've had in the registration form, have told us that you're brand new this year. But regardless of your level of experience, I hope that by the end of today's session, you will feel comfortable that you understand what's involved with the NELI programme, how you can get things up and running this year, and really importantly, where you can go to ask for help if you need it. And as usual with all of these webinars, the session is being recorded and we will send a link to you afterwards, and we will also be able to share it with anyone who registered but wasn't able to attend. Okay, so I thought that we could start off just by getting to know the group that we have here with us today a little bit better. So in a moment, a poll will flash up on your screen, and there will be 3 questions, but you'll only need to answer 2 of them. Hopefully that's popping up for you now, and we will have a look at that together, the results of that together in a moment, once you guys have had a chance to put in your responses. Okay, so while we wait, I also wanted to just thank everyone who submitted a question into the webinar registration form. I'd really highly recommend that you do this when you register. It's really helpful for me to know what you're interested in, what points of confusion there are, and it kind of helps me helps to sort of guide the content of the session. So I really appreciate that. I will hopefully answer most or all of the questions over the course of this webinar. But if you have any other questions, do pop them into the Q&A and our support team will be on hand to help, or they will follow up with you later on if it involves kind of more of a conversation. I also am really pleased to announce that due to the proven positive impact of the NELI programme over the last few years, the DFE will continue to fund the programme for all previously funded schools until 2029. But happily, we are also taking on new applications for funded places. And just as a reminder, in case there are any sort of schools who aren't yet funded on the call today, the funded place includes LanguageScreen with unlimited assessments from reception up to year 6. It also includes training and support, and there are no additional costs there if you need to train additional or replacement staff throughout the year. And it also includes a NELI resource pack for each reception class. So do get in touch with us on support@teachneli.org if you are currently not funded, but you would like to be. If you're not sure if you're funded, get in touch with us as well, and we can advise you on that. Okay, so we've had some responses to our poll. I'll just give you a couple more seconds to respond to that if you haven't already. Okay, I will end that now, and hopefully I can also share the results. So hopefully you can see the results on your screens as well. So we've got quite a few people, as I thought would be the case, that it's your very first year. So welcome to all of our newbies. I hope that you'll find this session really helpful. But we also have some people who have been delivering for between 1 and some over 5 years. So that's fantastic that we've got our kind of NELI veterans on here as well. What a great sort of opportunity for lots of people from the community to kind of come together. For those of you who have delivered before, the sorts of benefits that you've seen from implementing the programme, lots of you, the majority of you, have said improvements in obviously expressive and receptive language. That's pretty unsurprising. That's kind of what we would hope to see. Lots of you also saying improved confidence. This is such a lovely kind of secondary impact of the program, and we hear that a lot. And then quite a few of you also saying about better behaviour, kind of more kind of friendships within the classroom. And really excitingly, kind of staff knowledge of oral language development has improved as well. I will be talking a little bit about the training that's available a little bit later on. So that's really a really sort of important part of that. And similar responses from those of you who are new. Obviously, you're also looking for improvements in language, and lots of you really interested in improving your stuff, your knowledge of oral language development, which I'm really, really happy to see. That's such an integral part of what we offer as part of the NELI programme. So that's fantastic. Okie dokie. Thank you very much for everyone who shared their thoughts there. Okay, so today I am going to provide a short introduction to oral language and why early intervention and enrichment for language is so important. I will then sort of recap what the NELI programme timeline, and I will also then go into a little bit more detail about each component of the NELI programme, and as part of that, provide you with some key steps for getting started this year. We'll probably be here until about 20 to for about 30 to 40 minutes. I always try to keep it to 30. I usually overrun. So just as a sort of pre-warning for that. Okay, so let's sort of share some of our ideas. Some of you are brand new, as we've seen. Some of you have been involved in NELI for a while. Why do you think that it's important to have good oral language skills, or for children, obviously in particular, to have good oral language skills? If you pop your answer into the Q&A, I'll have a look at those in a moment. And while we wait, I just thought I'd sort of address the fact that it's really not easy, or the sort of the development of oral language, and the expectations that we have for children are pretty high as soon as they start school, really. We expect them to be able to, for example, pay attention, direct their attention in different directions, to listen to what people are saying to them, to then follow instructions, and then not only that, but also to be able to kind of speak clearly and express clearly their own thoughts and their own emotions and ideas. And we expect them to do this not just on a one-to-one basis, but sometimes in front of the whole class, which takes a sort of a lot of confidence really in their kind of communication abilities. And I think there is sometimes this sort of misconception that oral language is, it's a very natural process. It's very straightforward. There's just not much to it. But actually, there are a range of really complex and interconnected skills that we need in order to be able to kind of communicate effectively. And we tend to break these down into kind of receptive versus expressive language. But although we kind of divide them into these two sides, we should really be thinking of them as cyclical, because communication is really just this constant interaction between kind of speaking and listening. And at the age of sort of 4 or 5 years, when children are starting school, their language skills are very much still developing. And as with everything, the sort of rates of development will naturally vary between different children and for different reasons. And of course, that's perfectly normal. But the really important thing here is that we need to be able to identify children whose oral language skills are not developing within that typical range, so that we can then put in the appropriate support for those children. And if you're kind of finding this sort of discussion interesting, then you'll be really pleased to know that the first NELI training course covers the fundamentals of oral language development in detail. So if you haven't already completed the training, for those who are new this year, then you have that to look forward to. And that's why I'm so excited to see that so many of you are interested in improving your knowledge and understanding around oral language, because that is such an important part of what we offer. Okay, so I asked you to submit your ideas for why oral language skills are so important for young children. So let's have a look at some of your ideas. Okay, so Gillian said that so that they can join in and play with their peers and feel involved. Nicholas says to communicate their needs and interests and develop friendships. Um, it's the foundation for literacy, ability to express ourselves, to be understood by teachers and peers, um, unlock their ideas, yeah, and allow them to sort of express themselves. Um, yeah, these are all fantastic answers. It's almost as if you've seen my next slide, which covers pretty much all of those suggestions that people have put into the Q&A. So thank you very much for that. So yes, there is a huge body of evidence that shows that oral language skills form the foundation for education, as someone said in the Q&A. So children need good language to succeed in literacy. That's perhaps one of the more obvious ones, and I will speak about that a bit more in a moment. But not just literacy, maths. There's a huge amount of kind of language skill required in sort of arithmetic, solving arithmetic problems, and sort of navigating the world of maths. But really, to be honest, the whole curriculum, because obviously language is the medium of instruction. And so, therefore, it underpins our ability to communicate, to acquire knowledge, to understand the concepts that are being taught to us, and then also to communicate our understanding of those concepts back to our teachers and to our peers. And then beyond learning, as has rightly been sort of suggested, our language skills also influence our ability to join in with play, to then sort of form bonds with our peers and our teachers. And as sort of as part of that, therefore, to kind of develop a sense of belonging at school. And we actually also use language even kind of internally as part of our internal processes to understand our own emotions and to kind of regulate our behavior. So if we don't have those kind of core language skills, then all of those things become a lot trickier. So I said I would focus a little bit on reading. I can do whole sessions on this, so this is just sort of a really quick touch point. But when we talk about learning to read, it is really critical that we distinguish between two key facets of reading. One is decoding and one is comprehension. So research really strongly suggests that the theory that in order to read well, to read comprehensively, a person must first recognize or decode the words, so translate the print on the page into kind of spoken sounds, and then they need to understand the meaning of those words. And sort of decoding and language comprehension are, kind of, as we've discussed, complex processes that themselves kind of encompass a whole range of underlying skills. And one way that you can visualize this, or one way that this has been visualized, is through Scarborough's reading rope, which is what you can see on the slide here. So what this says is that in order for the rope, which represents kind of strong reading comprehension, to be sort of strong in itself, both of those kind of component strands must be strong. A weakness in one, so whether that's language or whether that's decoding, weakens that entire rope. But actually, there's also recent research which kind of takes this a step further and indicates that language skills are the foundation for both decoding and comprehension. And this study found that children's language skills before they started school predicted their early word reading skills and their later reading comprehension. So it was at the foundation of both of those processes behind learning to read. And really, all of this just comes together to mean that sort of assessing, accurately assessing children's language skills early on are really critical for kind of planning their education and any additional support that they might need. Okay, so here that sort of leads us quite nicely onto the NELI programme. So here is a simple view of how most people deliver the NELI programme over a school year. The first step is the LanguageScreen assessments, and these should be completed with all children ideally at the start. Oops. at the start of the class, in the class at the start and end of the year. Next comes the online NELI training, which teaches practitioners about oral language development, as I've mentioned, and also prepares them to deliver NELI. Then there's the intervention itself, which is 20 weeks long and divided into two 10-week parts. And I'll go into each of those kind of core elements in a little bit more detail now, starting with LanguageScreen. So LanguageScreen is an assessment tool which helps schools to measure and track the progress of children's oral language skills and use this sort of quantification of those skills to identify those children who would benefit from either in-house intervention or sort of specialist external support. LanguageScreen is administered individually, so one adult per child, and you can do it using either a mobile device or a laptop or computer. Each assessment takes between 5 and 12 minutes from start to finish. That is everything, so there's no additional time then required for scoring or calculating sort of scores or entering data. It's all done for you automatically. And the reason there's that variation in the test time is that the test adapts to the age and the abilities of the child. So it's shorter for younger children or for children who have weaker language skills. In terms of kind of real terms time for doing these assessments, if you're assessing full time, it's the only thing you're doing, you can assess a class of children in about a day or maybe just a little bit more. But we more often see schools kind of spreading it out over the course of a week or two. Due to its adaptability for different ages, LanguageScreen is suitable from age 3 to 11. So it can be used from nursery all the way up to the end of year 6. And those of you who are familiar with NELI will know that that extends beyond the target age range of the intervention. And that is because even though LanguageScreen is part of the NELI programme, it can actually be used on its own, whether that's sort of in older year groups or whether you want to use it in reception and year 1, even though you aren't delivering the intervention. For example, you might even be delivering a different intervention, or you might be sort of considering bringing in a language programme and wanting to kind of assess the level of need in your class first. So you can use it right the way up through the school, and ideally you would use it with all children at the start and end of each school year. The reason for that is that your first assessment kind of sets the baseline. That allows you to sort of check who needs targeted support. And then the second assessment allows you to track progress. You can kind of see if the need has sort of shifted between the children. And also you can measure the impact of any sort of targeted support that you have provided. And the last thing just to say here is that there isn't any kind of specialist training that's needed to carry out a LanguageScreen assessment. The instructions and guidance are all there for you built into the assessment. So it assesses 4 things: expressive vocabulary, listening comprehension, receptive vocabulary, and sentence repetition. And one of the questions that we received on the registration form was about why we test different words with LanguageScreen than those that are taught in NELI. So the reason for this is that if we were directly to teach the words that are assessed in the test, then when we were carrying out a LanguageScreen assessment, we would really just be testing how well the children had learnt those specific words. We'd essentially be teaching them to pass the test, rather than kind of improving their whole sort of language system. When you are delivering NELI, you are supporting a child's whole language system. You're growing their whole vocabulary store, you're growing their general narrative or storytelling skills, and so on. And so by doing that, they will naturally perform better in LanguageScreen next time without having to have taught them those specific words. So the scores that each child will get are standardised according to their age, using a database of over 750,000 pupils. And the report will flag any children who are scoring lower than we would expect for the age of that child. And it's all sort of available for you as a downloadable report. And that report can be for the whole school, it can be for the year group, or it can be by class. And there's also an individual report for each child. And we do use a traffic light system with red, amber, and green symbols to hopefully make it super clear for you who needs that additional help. So red means that child's score puts them in the bottom 10% for their age, which sort of represents kind of having quite clear language difficulties. If they have amber, that means that they're in the bottom 10 to 20% for their age. It's kind of representing a slight concern for their language abilities. And if they have a green flag, then that means that their score puts them at better than the bottom 20% for their age. It doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't benefit from having some language teaching and input. Children's language can always be improved and expanded and sort of built upon. But it's just to kind of help you prioritize. So those are children whose language skills don't necessarily present immediate concerns. So one of the questions that we received was around delivering sort of NELI in a three-form entry school and how you would use data to kind of plan that kind of delivery. So absolutely use your LanguageScreen report as your kind of starting place. This will tell you where your need is highest. You can then choose whether you would prefer to deliver one NELI group per class, in which case you would kind of take the children with the lowest scores per class and put them into a NELI group. Or if you can't deliver 3 groups because of resourcing limitations, then what you could do is you could look at the year group as a whole and then deliver 1 or 2 groups or whatever you're able to do, including the children who have the lowest scores from across that year group. So that's how you could use the sort of different levels of reporting to help you to kind of plan that input. So then if a child has been assessed more than once within a time period, then you will see those assessments next to each other, and that hopefully will allow you to see really quickly any progress made by that child. And an increase in a child's LanguageScreen score, just to explain it a little bit better for those who aren't so familiar with working with standardized scores. So an increase shows that their language skills have improved relative to other children of their age. So that's basically a real terms improvement beyond what you would expect them to have made just by getting older. Then on the flip side of that, a decrease in a child's LanguageScreen score shows that their language skills are actually failing to keep up with the sort of expected rate of improvement for their age. And if a score doesn't change, it means that their language skills have improved, but at about the rate that we would expect for the fact that they've got older during that time period between the first and the most recent assessment. So just as a rough guide, a good rule of thumb to have is that a change in standard score of 5 points or more indicates that there's been a sort of meaningful change in their language skills. And we have released a new assessment dashboard, which allows you to kind of really quickly make some progress comparisons between NELI pupils and other pupils, and to measure the impact of the intervention. So in the dashboard, the scores are presented in box and whisker plots, which, in fact, let me get my little pointer up and then I can do this at the same time. So the box and whiskers plots show the lowest score of the group, the highest score of the group, where the median is, and where the box is where 50% of the scores sit. So sort of as you can see in this example that's on the slide, you can look at the class as a whole. So we're comparing the data for the first assessment of the year compared to the last assessment of the year, or you can break it down. So you can compare the progress made by the NELI intervention pupils compared to the rest of the pupils. And the reason this is really interesting is because if you were just to see the whole class, you can see there's been some improvement. There's a real shift there in the median upwards from around 90 to around 105 or something like that. But it's only once you break it down and do that comparison between the NELI pupils and the other pupils that you can see actually that change is largely being driven by the NELI pupils. So they've gone up from kind of around, I don't know, around 78 or 80, their median, up to around 100, which puts them sort of bang on average. Whereas the movement for the rest of the pupils, kind of as we would expect, hasn't changed much. Again, that doesn't mean they haven't improved. It means that they've improved in line with their increase in age, the fact that they've got older over the course of that year. But for you to get the benefits of that report, you need to identify who your NELI children are, and you need to rescreen at least 5 to 10 children who didn't receive NELI. It's only that way that we'll be able to kind of do those comparison reports for you. And just to say, we also have dashboards available at a trust or a local authority level. So if that's of interest to anybody here, then please do get in touch with us on support@teachnelli.org. Okay, so in terms of getting started with LanguageScreen, you first need to upload the data of your new cohort into the OCSED system. So you log into oxedandassessment.com, you go to the Import Pupils tab, and that allows you to kind of import or sort of populate a template spreadsheet, and you can just upload a whole class all in one go. There's a review step, so you can check your data, fix any problems before you upload. And then once everyone's registered, you can go to the QR codes tab and either open or download a PDF of your class's codes. How this works is basically every QR code is linked to a particular child. That's how we know who you're assessing. And you should use that same code each time you assess that child, whether you're assessing them with LanguageScreen or another one of our apps like ReadingScreen. And if you are doing it for the first time this year, I would really strongly recommend that you just run a practice assessment first. There's a practice QR code for you at the top that you can use for that purpose, just so you can get a sense of, how it works. Jumped ahead a bit there. Okay, so then you open LanguageScreen. So if you're logged into oxedandassessment.com, you can actually just assess straight from your computer or your mobile device by clicking on Assess with LanguageScreen under that child's QR code, or you can open the kind of the web browser, which you can actually do now if you wanted to just have a go. If you scan that QR code on the left, this one, with your phone camera, then it will open LanguageScreen for you, and you can have a go with it there. And then you're ready. So you can start assessing as soon as you like this year. Some of you may have already started. Some schools like to get going, as early as possible. Some prefer to wait and let the children get settled a little bit first. It's totally up to you and what you think is best for your cohort. But in the meantime, if you need any help from us, obviously, please do get in touch. Okay, so moving on to the training then. So the NELI training consists of several linked courses. These are all online, so they can be completed at times that suit you. And they are such a worthwhile investment of your time. The first course, Language Fundamentals, is the one that I've mentioned a couple of times now. It covers some of the kind of information that I really just touched on at the start of this session today. So things like the importance of good oral language development, the core skills that children need, some key teaching strategies and techniques that are used in the programme but can actually be used throughout the classroom in any interaction with your children. And it also gives an overview of NELI. So this is a really good course it should be completed by anyone who's delivering actual NELI sessions, but it's also really fantastic if you're the class teacher, if you're the school SENCO, if you're the NELI lead, if you're sort of having any involvement with the implementation of NELI, or if you're just interested in oral language, then that's a really fantastic course for you to complete. Then the rest of the training is more focused on the kind of practicalities of delivering NELI. Again, if you are interested and want to complete those courses, you can, but they're going to be most useful for the person who is actually delivering sessions, usually a teaching assistant, but not always. So to ensure that you're kind of ready to get going with the training, the first step is just to make sure that everyone in the school has the access to the training that they need. So as I mentioned earlier, that's obviously the practitioner who's going to be delivering sessions, but it could be other people as well. If you are an owner or an admin of your school's account on oxedandassessment.com, you can actually just request an invitation on behalf of your colleagues or your staff. You can also just get in touch with us as well to request invitations. If you are expecting to receive an invitation to the training, please look out for it from please-do-not-reply@futurelearn.com. What that will be is an invitation to course 1, the Language Fundamentals course. Once you're enrolled on that, you can then self-enroll yourself on the rest of the training. So then it's kind of self-enrollment from that point forward. And then once you're enrolled on the training and you're working your way through the content, our main advice really is just to kind of use the community that you've got around you to kind of enhance your learning. So there's a comment section that you can use to kind of learn from other practitioners, ask questions. We also have expert mentors available that can support you as well. So please do make the most of that. Okay, so then on to NELI itself. So NELI is a program principally targeted towards children in reception who have poor or weaknesses in their language skills. It is specifically designed to improve vocabulary knowledge and to develop narrative and active listening skills. And as a knock-on effect of that, to kind of build confidence in speaking, which is helpfully it was one of the biggest impacts that was reported in our poll earlier on. So NELI includes session plans in the teaching handbooks that are included in the pack that's sent to schools. And it also includes the program mascot, Ted, as well as all of the kind of flashcards and posters and kind of the core kind of teaching materials that you'll need as part of your sessions. So NELI is kind of made up of small group sessions. Usually a NELI group is kind of 4 to 6 children. So there's small group sessions and then there are one-to-one sessions. These sessions always follow pretty much the same routine. And the way that it works is that you will always introduce new content in your group sessions, and then you have kind of interlocking one-to-one sessions with each of those children which provide you with an opportunity to kind of provide a bit more tailored teaching and kind of really scaffold their learning in each of those areas to help that child. In terms of your kind of suggested timetable, this is just one way that you can deliver the program, but we're always sort of hearing from schools who have kind of adapted their delivery schedule to suit other things that are going on in the school. But in terms of time, you're kind of looking at sort of between 4 and 6 hours over the course of the week if you're delivering the sort of all of the recommended sessions each week. Okay, so at this stage, the start of the year, the first key step for getting ready to deliver NELI is to kind of plan your delivery timeline. So when you start is up to you. Again, as with LanguageScreen, some schools kind of like to get going as soon as possible, whereas other schools prefer to wait until they come back from Christmas. And both of those are absolutely fine. It's just helpful to kind of build in time for sort of unexpected delays, which can obviously always happen despite best efforts. And ideally, you want to leave enough time sort of towards the end of the year to rescreen your children with LanguageScreen. One of the questions on the registration form that we received was about whether more than one member of staff can deliver the programme. Absolutely. So your training subscription allows you to train as many members of staff as you like. So those members of staff can share the delivery. That's absolutely fine. We would just advise that those members of staff who are delivering together or sort of sharing the delivery just probably need to stay in relatively close communication, making sure that the kind of handover between sessions is smooth and they've passed on any feedback and things like that. But in principle, absolutely. If you are delivering NELI for the first time this year, you will just need to prepare and organise your resources a little bit. This can take a little bit of time, there's quite a lot of them, but it is really worth your time and it'll sort of save you a lot of headaches later on. And we do provide guidance for this on the training to help you get organised. And I know that there's lots of people on this call who have been delivering NELI for a while. So you might have found that some of your resources have kind of gone wandering. So if that's the case and you need a replacement pack, then please contact us on support@teachneli.org. Also, please do take a look at our digital resources library. We have uploaded kind of view-only copies of the teaching handbooks, which we hope you'll find useful for, if you've left yours at home or you've kind of lent it to another member of staff. There's also printable versions of some of the flashcards and kind of additional materials like family newsletters and so on. If you are a DFE funded school, you will have been emailed instructions on how to access this digital resources library, but do contact us if you need any help with this and we'll help you get on there. Okay, and then finally, I always just say that, we know that undertaking NELI can be, or it is a significant commitment. And so it's really important for you to kind of understand that you're part of this fantastic community of practitioners who are, really investing in their children's oral language development. And so we really recommend that you kind of build connections both within your school. You want people in the school to know the fantastic work that you're doing, but also outside of the school, if there are sort of local schools nearby who are also running the NELI programme, then why not kind of share some learnings? But then also you've got your online community as well through the training and through the delivery support hub and through these webinars, hopefully. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much for your time and for your questions. I can see there have been lots of questions that have come into the Q&A. Please do kind of follow up with us on support@teachneli.org if you have any other questions that pop up. Keep an eye out for future invitations for webinars. We generally run sort of 2 webinars per term. And I'm always open to ideas for stuff that you would like us to cover, or even better, if you would like to showcase your school's NELI delivery, I'm really keen to get your voices heard on these sessions as well. So I would love to hear from you in that case as well. So please do get in touch. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.